Hello everyone, I am Peppino here, and we are ready for the second mission in Kerbal Space Program. This is going to be the launch of the Kerbnik 2, and you can see I've made a couple changes to the design if you're paying attention. I've added wings and some RCS thrusters on the second stage, so hopefully all of this is just going to make it a little easier to control and a little more stable. And we're going to need to be easier to control because today we are going to put a satellite around the moon, assuming everything goes according to plan and nothing goes horribly wrong. So, with that, let's commence the launch of the Kerbnik 2 satellite in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we have liftoff, and again, rather than try to compete too much with these rockets, I've already turned the sound almost all the way down on them, and they're still very loud, so I'm talking a little louder here. I'm just going to wait to do most of my commentary until we get up into space, and there's the moon right there. That's our target. So let's see if we can get there and put this satellite orbiting it. And I would speed up time, but it's actually not a good idea to do that. You can warp time right there, but when you're launching things, if you do that, your ship can occasionally go off course where normally it wouldn't. It's kind of a weird bug, I'm guessing. So we're just going to watch it at normal speed, and I may speed up the video or just skip a little bit of this, who knows. But here we go. Oh hey, I figured out if I zoom out, the rockets aren't going to be as loud, so I can talk now while I'm zoomed out. And so far, so good with everything. Here's our map. There is Kerbnik 1 orbiting. Kerbnik 2 is being launched. And looks like everything is going very smoothly. Alright, there's stage 1 detached. Stage 2 firing. And let's try and fix this now. Alright, this stage is still not any easier to control, unfortunately. If I do this, maybe I can get a little more control of it. Maybe I have to be thrusting for it to work. I don't know. But yeah, no, this stage is still very difficult to control. Alright, well, this isn't actually working as far as controlling this so much. So we know another problem that we're going to have to deal with in the design of this spacecraft. So we have to figure out a way to make this stage easier to control. And once we do that, then I'm sure that we will be okay, because we have plenty of fuel for these missions. So I'm not too worried about that. I may need to add more fuel if we do end up going to other planets with this design, but that'll come in time. And now, let's just hope that we can get control of this thing. This is getting real annoying, how difficult this is to control. Come on. Alright, well, let's see. on our map, we're still doing fine, except for we're almost to our apoapsis, so we don't have much time to be fooling around with this. We need to get pointed in the right direction very quickly. So let's do this. There we go. And now we're getting our apoapsis to extend a little more the way we want it to. And now we can try and get this to stabilize here and hope that it does, because it's real annoying. I'm definitely gonna have to work on that before the next mission, but we got it now, and we are outside the orbit of Kerbnik 1, which is right there, so that's a good thing. And now we have to set our target for the moon. There is actually 2 moons. One is called Moon, and one is Minimus, which is right out there. We can try put a satellite in orbit around both of them at some point. But first things first, we're going to go for Moon, because that is the closest celestial body to Kerbin, and it's just the easiest. So, here we go. Let's try and stabilize this a little more. This is getting really annoying. I wish that this was more stable, because it's definitely a problem. What I want to do is get it to be right around here for where it's going. I just need to stop it. Yeah, it's not happening. This is a very, very unstable second stage of this design, and that's going to make this a lot more difficult than it needs to be for getting this thing up into orbit, or at least orbit around the moon. Yeah, this is a problem. Oh. There we go. So, we got a moon encounter. So that's good. I'm not sure how that happened with how bad our orbit was starting. But alright, what you see here is our moon encounter. And what we can do then is, when we hit here, we will be within the moon's sphere of influence, which means we will be influenced by the moon's gravity. And once we are influenced by the moon's gravity, I'm going to just ditch this stage of the rockets there. Alright, once we are influenced by the moon's gravity, what we can do then is actually slow ourselves down enough to be completely captured by the gravity, and then maintain an orbit around the moon. And you can see where our orbit would be here. If we don't slow ourselves down enough, we are currently on a path, if we didn't slow ourselves down at all, to actually be launched out of Kerbin's sphere of influence and into deep space, just orbiting around the sun. There are some other planets out there, but right now our focus is Moon. So we're gonna speed up time here a bit, just so we can get there quicker. And once we get there, we're gonna have to slow ourselves down basically, and we should have enough fuel to do that, I would think. So that shouldn't be too bad of a problem. The hardest part is just getting the encounter a lot of times, which we got lucky this time. I didn't actually expect to get one this easily, with how bad our orbit was going there. But it's alright. We are actually aimed in a good direction. And so there's the countdown, hour and 10 minutes till we get to our moon encounter. And I don't want to warp time too fast because I don't want to miss it, because as soon as we get into our moon encounter, we have to start slowing ourselves down, which we're actually already slowing down, which is a good thing. But we need to slow ourselves down even more so that we can be captured by the gravity of the moon. We're going to be right above it, so it's going to be kind of a weird orbit around moon. But that's fine. So now what we're going to do is, as soon as we're in orbit of the moon, this arrow is going to change like that. And then there is where we would be if we didn't slow ourselves down enough. We'd get launched into orbit around the sun. But hopefully we can slow ourselves down here. And once we do that, we will alright, gotta go this way. We gotta be facing the opposite way. But once we do that, we will be in a nice orbit, and then we'll bring that orbit in as close as possible so we can get the best view of the moon that we can. And hopefully we just won't crash into the moon, because that would be bad. Sorry. We want our satellite to be able to send us back data, which it doesn't actually really do in the game, but we'll say that us looking at the moon as we orbit it is the data. I've got all these scientific fancy instruments mounted on the satellite, and none of them really do a whole lot, if we're being honest. So basically all you need is just something orbiting. Alright, right there. Now let's try slowing ourselves down. So by thrusting in reverse, see, we slow ourselves down, and the time until we get to our moon escape gets larger, because we are going slower, so it's going to take us longer to leave the moon's sphere of influence. And you can see now, if we did leave the sphere of influence, we wouldn't escape Kerbin's gravity either, because we've slowed ourselves. But we need to slow ourselves enough, which we will have plenty of fuel to do, I would think. We need to slow ourselves enough that this curves all the way around and creates an orbit. Then once we do that, we slow ourselves down even more, and we will have a shorter orbit. So now we're just gonna, I can't warp time at all right now. That's fine though. And you can see there would be our orbit. So we would orbit Kerbin if we don't make it, but I think we'll have plenty of fuel to make it into our orbit here, and actually to bring it down to a very nice even orbit close to the surface of the moon. Now the moon doesn't have an atmosphere, so we should be able to get pretty darn close to it without crashing into it. And you can see there the curve is starting to happen as we slow ourselves down to less than 300 meters per second. So we're going real slow right now. And our orbit of Kerbin is changing as well. Oh, here we go. It's coming around and gonna connect pretty soon. And our periapsis there. I need to wait until we get closer to the periapsis, I think, to burn I don't want to burn too much because we don't want to crash into the moon. So we'll bring that down to a little less than 100,000, and then we're gonna have to stop burning until we get down there. I'll zoom in. Alright. Well, I'll bring it down even more. This is risky, but we want to get our orbit as close to the moon as possible, just so that we can see as much of the moon as possible. Alright, so now we can warp time a bit. There's our debris. The debris is actually going to leave Kerbin's gravity, and it's going to be orbiting around the sun. I don't like to leave debris orbiting places, but sometimes you have to, and this was one of those times. So now, let's speed it up a little more. Alright, now we're getting down near our periapsis, and we'll warp a little more until we get right to the periapsis, and then we can finish off our orbit by burning there. Alright, so let's aim in the right direction and start our burn to slow ourselves down even more. And once we do that, then we should have this loop around, connect, and then we can bring the apoapsis down to under 100,000 meters as well. And then we'll have a nice stable orbit very close to the moon, so that we can get a very good look at what the surface looks like, if we're possibly ever going to land anything on there. The moon is difficult to land on because of the fact that it doesn't have an atmosphere, so we can't just parachute things down there. But they have moon landers and stuff. See, there we go, there's our orbit. Now we bring our apoapsis down. It's coming down pretty quick, which is good. And then we'll bring it in real close, so that our orbit is very short. Just like this. Alright, bring it in slowly to within 100,000. And like that. And our periapsis is also dropping, which we have to watch out for. Alright, it's not exactly stable, but it's good enough for me. Just bring this down, try get as close as we can, and I think that's pretty darn good. Let's take a look at our work from the map. There we go. That is the moon. We've got a nice orbit going right now. It would be risky to try to bring it in any closer, but I guess we could. Let's see here. Alright. Just bring our periapsis down inside about 235-ish. Good enough. Now let's zoom around till we get to there. we can watch it in this vision here. So basically, the reason I want to get in so close to these planets is just for the sake of observing the surface. And I know that the moon doesn't have an atmosphere, so we shouldn't be slowed down and crash into it, which is always a good thing. Alright, right here, so we can turn ourselves now and burn before we get to our periapsis. And that will be the final adjustment we should need to make to our orbit, and we will have the Kerbnik 2 as a successful mission orbiting the moon. And then we will be back for the next launch, which I haven't quite decided yet what our next mission is going to be. But hopefully we can go 3 for 3 on successful missions on our first 3 attempts, because that's always a good thing. You don't want to be blowing up your satellites, especially you don't want to be blowing stuff up once you get to actual astronauts, because that's always bad. I have another file where I've been doing some experimenting and stuff, and I always tend to kill my astronauts on that file. I don't actually really worry about their safety as much. It's just like a practice thing so I can learn how to play the game, because I didn't watch any tutorials or anything. So if I'm doing stuff wrong or in a not very efficient way, that's why. I've just basically taught myself to play, read the wiki a little bit. Alright. But yeah, maybe I'll show some stuff from that file at some point in the future. But for now we're sticking with this file where we don't want to kill our astronauts. Alright, let's hurry it up a little bit. But no, every astronaut life is very valuable to me on this file, so I would prefer to not lose any of them. And that would be a tragedy if we did. But that just means we really gotta make sure that our designs are sound when we are launching people or Kerbals into space. There we go. That's pretty darn close. Right there. Alright, so now we have a very stable orbit of the moon, very close in, and we have plenty of fuel where we could come back and adjust that later if we need to. That's the nice thing about this satellite design is both the Kerbnik 1 and 2 have plenty of fuel left, so if I wanted to change what they were doing, I probably could. Now we'll spin around to the bright side of the moon here, and we'll take one more look at it, zoomed out a bit. Let's speed up time even more here, just so that we can get to the bright side so we can actually see stuff. Alright, so there it is. There's our home planet, the sun, and here is the moon with the Kerbnik 2 orbiting around it. So this is good. Well, we're zoomed in real far now. Didn't even know you could do that. That's as far as you can zoom in. Alright, well, there we go. The Kerbnik 2 is a successful mission, and we will leave that orbiting the moon until further notice. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will be back in my next video for our next mission. See you next time.